Jumping in, what we're going to be looking at is the customer BI, or the BI, which stands for business intelligence. There are 3 tools in the business intelligence that we have so far, and they're extremely powerful tools to use for reporting and different things. We're going to be mainly focused on the customer overview portion of this screen. And if you would want to follow along, you can find the screen under Utility Billing, BI, and here are your 3 options. You have Customer, Mapping, and Location. These are all fully functional now in version 4.5.0.0. We did have issues with the Location BI in earlier versions, but everything is up and working now. Location BI is a bit complicated, and I haven't had a chance to really dig into this to see how to all the features that are involved with using this. The Mapping BI requires a Google or Bing geocoding API key, and you'll have to get that set up. And eventually, we're going to have some instructions on how to do all of that. This is a powerful tool as well. It helps you with tracking. It works really well with our FieldHawk application, and allows you to do work orders and things like that and track them in real time on a map. But we're going to be working in the customer BI. And once we get into here, there are quite a few features that if you're on an earlier version right now, you're not going to be able to see everything that we have here now. The processes tab up here at the top, you can see that we've expanded this from the older versions. There's several new options that we can use. Originally, kind of the history of this screen was that it was designed for your tellers up front, and they could come into the screen and see all of your customers that are in the system. You can see how much they owe, all the information that's associated with them. And if I scroll over here, you can see their balances, so their age balance and what they owe. And you can use this screen to make payments directly to a customer's account by highlighting that customer and clicking on our process payments up here at the top. So with that, that's the history of the screen. It was originally designed for that. And I'm not trying to go to this customer, so I'm not sure why. There we go. I accidentally clicked the Go To button. Okay, so when you get into the screen to kind of see the options that we have now, the standard setup without creating, because you have the option to create your own customer BI reports. The standard setup comes with these 2 at the top, the customer system and the customer location system. The only difference between these 2 is that the customer location includes the service address and the bill to address, whereas this one does not. When we look at these, you can change the size of each of these fields. You can remove, anytime you click on one of these top column headings, it gives you the same menu option. So you can sort by each of the title headings. You can group by, and I'll show you this in a minute. You can hide a group box. This up here is the group box. Drag a column header here to group by that column. You can hide that and get rid of it. You can hide the column that you're on. So if you don't want to see the column, let's say government ID here, and I want to get rid of that one, I'm going to hide that column. It's still there, but you don't see it anymore. And whenever you get into the reporting, when you print a report, it's only going to show what's actually seen on the screen at this time. So again, if we click on any of these column headings, we can see the pop-up menu come back. You have the column chooser, which we have that hidden column in here, and we select that. Now we can see the column that we removed, that we hid, and any other ones that we have that are hidden that aren't seen. If you double click them, they get put back onto the report. and then you can drag or drop columns here to customize the layout. So if you open this screen here, I don't want the alt ID, I don't want the government ID, I don't need the second notice. You can start selecting and dragging those in there, and I must have dropped that second notice somewhere else. But they'll show up in that list there, and then of course you can put them back as you need them. So when I right click on the column heading again, I get the same menu. We can change the width of each of these columns. If I say best fit, it'll be for this one column that I have selected. Best fit all columns. If I click that, it's going to take a second, but it's going to reorganize all of these columns in kind of in the same way that it would happen in Excel when you highlight everything and double click a divider in the column heading. This will take just a second to complete. And while that is going, I just want to mention that we're not going to have enough time to go through every single feature in here. There's so much that you can do with this screen that it would take maybe 2 or 3 sessions to go through all of the details. All right, so as you can see, this is expanded the columns to make it where all the information fits. So in the name column, I'm sure we have a name that's long enough to scroll across the whole width of that column there. But in any case, anytime that you need to do something you know, with the column widths or anything like that, you can adjust them manually here, or you can right click and use the options here. Normally when I come into the screen and I'm ready to work, I will select the style of report that I would like to use. It has the 2 basic styles and then all the ones that we've created since then. When I select the style of report, the very first thing I do pretty much every single time is come in here, right click, and go to filter to show auto filter row. So when I see that, now I have a row here that I can type into and sort my data by. So on here, if I only want to see active customers, I will put an A in there and it'll pull up only my active customers. If I only want to see billing cycle 2A, I can put that in there and only billing cycle 2A customers will show up throughout the whole list. You can have multiple in each of these columns, and it allows you to sort through and select specific customers that you're looking for. Customer class, of course this one here I think only mostly residential. We have some free different things in here. So this right here, pretty much every time I come into the screen to use it, I automatically put this on here so that I have the ability to sort through and find specific customers I'm looking for or specific information. Another way that we can do this is by right-clicking and going to the filter editor. And this does the same thing as this auto filter row, just a little bit more. This is where your SQL knowledge will come in handy, because this works off of basically the same way SQL would when you're writing a query. So right now we have a status begins with A, and that's because I have an A in this auto filter row, so the status has to begin with A. Billing cycle begins with 2A, so it's got to begin with that. If I wanted to add another row in here, I could hit the plus button, and it says name because that's the row that I right-clicked on to bring up this menu. But I can change that to any column that you see in the list here. We'll do pay. Well, let's not do that one. We probably don't have very many of those. Let's do bill class. Begins with, and then we can enter a value. So bill class, I'm not sure what values we have. We'll just put something in there. I'll put an E and apply. So we have nothing with a bill class of E. So if it brings nothing up, we can get rid of that by hitting the red X next to it. When we apply, it'll bring everything back up. Now with this also, there is the ability to have more sorting options here. So if we want to, let me see if I can find something. All right, so the overdue state here, and this is a little bit complex, but for the purpose of what we're doing here, We have some options here. We have paid, serious, and some other options that we probably have further down the list. But I'm going to add that as my auto filter, and I want to make sure that it's the overdue state there. And it begins with, we can have it say begins with and only bring up all the paid. But if we want to see everything except for paid, we will say does not equal, and then we can put in paid as our value. And then when we hit apply, everything that is not paid will show up. All the customers that are in an overdue state of this. Now, if I wanted to see if there were other types here, I would do the same thing again. Overdue state does not equal, and then we'll say here with the value, it would be serious. And when I select that and apply, we can see that those are the only two statuses that we have at the moment for these customers. So we can get rid of this, and we'll take both of those out as well and come back here. All right. So that's the basic navigation and sorting here of in using the filter editor in the system. You can get pretty complex with this filter editor. You have begins with, it equals, it does not equal, is greater than, is less than, or equal to. All of these options here is between two values, is not between. As you can see, there's quite a lot of choices here that will make your customer searches and reporting much more accurate. All right, so let's get rid of that again, cancel here. All right, and then the group by column here in this box, if we were wanting to group by, so right now we have our overdue state. So I would like to group everything by this title. When I drag this up, I can click and drag it up here to overdue state, or to the group by box. It will hold that here, and now and as you can see, I have overdue state equals paid or serious. So if I click the plus button here, it will expand and show me all the customers here that are in a overdue state of paid, and here for the serious. Now, if I wanted to look at this and group by another column, let's say status, so I have overdue state is paid, and I have a status here, but I only want the active customers. I could click here and just get the active, or I could do another group by dragging this here, and now it's grouped by the overdue state and by the status. So as you can see, I can click the plus next to the overdue state, and I can see my status is A, so only active, and then these are all the ones that are inactive. All right, so once you have all of that, and of course you can group by multiple things here. And as you see, as we group by more things, active, it's going down the tree, and it looks like all of these people are penalizable, but there would be an option for them to be not penalizable if we had any customers in that state, which it doesn't look like we do. Again, that's the same all the way down. You would have, see, now we have penalizable and non-penalizable. So now we have non-penalizable customers that are status of inactive. They're in billing cycle 1A. So that again, grouping tool is very powerful and very useful if you're looking at and having to sort through different information back and forth, trying to figure things out on your customer accounts. If it's not helpful, then you can right-click and click this ungroup, and it gets rid of that grouping. Ungroup, ungroup, and ungroup. All right. So that's a pretty powerful tool there. Now, in here, I don't want to, let's see, I may have to clear out and come back in. So we're going to look at how to actually create a report from this, and we want to see let's say we want to see the overdue state, but we want it to be down here. We can organize this screen in any way we'd like. We want the customer name to be next. As you can see, as I'm clicking, left clicking and dragging, it is putting a set of arrows on the marker in between the columns where I can drop this. So we can organize this screen the way we'd like. We can have anything that we'd want in any order that we want. And once we have it there, we can organize the size of each heading. We can remove columns here, hide this column. And everything that we do to this screen here, when we go to print a report, let's get rid of that as well and that as well. When we go to print a report, we have these options here. So if I use the down arrow next to the report, I can report options. I can include username. These are all the columns and things that we were going to include, or this would be in the title of the report. Include date and time, include page numbers, include group summary, include grid summary. I haven't had a chance to actually look at all of this here and see what happens when I uncheck them all. We can change the background color on each of these though. So if I wanted to make the username more noticeable on the report, I can change that background color. When I click off of there, if I want to bring the report up, I'm going to click the report button. This report will contain this many records. You probably don't want to create a report that has this many records because it might take you half a day. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, but I want to limit this again so that I can get better reporting. So I'm going to right click, go to my show auto filter row. I'm going to hit A to just get the active customers. We're going to say billing cycle 2A only. And we're going to say, let's see if we can find another field that we can, let's look at this, make it a little bit more complex. So we have a first notice due date. And maybe I only want customers that have a first notice due date that is higher than 4/12/2018, or let's say 3/1/2018. So I'm going to right click on here. I'm going to get my filter editor. And we already have two in here because we've set them up with our auto filter row. And I want to add another one. And I want it to be first notice due date, so that's already selected. Is equal to, we don't want equals, we want is greater than, and then we need a value. So the value should look like what we have in this field. We're going to put in 3/1/2018 as a date. And I think, yeah, it's single digits with no zeros in the front. Sometimes these are very specific fields, so you have to make sure that you type the information in exactly as you see it. So I'm going to apply that. And now we have, we should see first notices with only, above 4/1. We can actually go up a little bit further with that to limit this more. So I'm going to go back to my filter editor. And this, if you notice, this has popped up as well, the clear filter. So I can clear all of my filters with one click and get rid of everything that's here. So I'm going to go back to my filter editor. I'm going to make this, let's make it 8/1/2018. I'm going to apply that and say OK. So now we have fewer accounts to deal with. And if we want to get a count of how many we actually have on this report showing, we can right click down here at the bottom of the report. And I would probably do it because it's still considering this as a column. So I'll come over to this account number column. I'm going to right click and we have count options here. So we can do the minimum, the maximum, and a count. If we do a minimum, it's going to show you the smallest number that's in this field. If it's a text field, then it's going to show you the closest to the letter A alphabetically. Maximum is going to, of course, be closest to the letter Z alphabetically, and then here is going to be, with numbers, it's going to be the highest number that you have in this field. If you just do a count, that's going to tell you that I have 598 records. If I cleared all my filtering out, it would have shown 5,000 some odd records. We can limit this some more for people who only have names that start with L. Now we only have 27 records. That's a little bit more usable. I don't know why you would ever do something like that in the real world, but I'm going to use that for our example here. So if I go in now and click report, it is going to go ahead and create that report. So it's not even going to give you the warning that we got before. And now you can see that on our report, you have all of the information that we included. All of the columns that we excluded are no longer here. And it's only showing the 27 customers that we have. And because we turned the background color of the username red, you can see that that has been highlighted red as well. So each of these fields up here can be a different color for whatever purposes you'd like to use it on for. So now that we have this report, there's a few things that we can do here. You have all of your normal reporting options here. If you would just like to print the report, you can print it with these icons here. You can save the report. If you save the report, you can save it. It's going to be a .prnx. If you save it as a .prnx, you can do that. The only program that's ever going to be able to open that I know of is going to be this reporting program here. So if you have a .prnx program, you can click File, and you may have to go to the I'll have to show you how to do that. You can print a different type of report and open it through this. This may let you open it. No, it won't. Okay, I'll have to show you. I'll have to pull that up here in just a second from the customer screen to open that PRNX. But you can also export this as any of these formats here, a PDF file. These are Excel files. However, if you're going to use this report in Excel, I would export it as a CSV to allow you to get this information in a usable format. So I usually just leave everything defaulted. I'm going to save this, and then it's going to ask me to open. And then it's going to bring all of that information up in Excel. And if you double click on the dividers here, it will expand it out to where you can see all of your information that we have on that report. So this you can use any of the functions in Excel to work with this data. All right. So I don't want to save this. Of course, then to exit out of this here. Now, the reason that is interesting or useful is that a lot of customers have asked about making mailing lists, and they need it in an Excel format. So you can create your mailing list with whatever criteria you'd like through the customer BI and export this to a .csv, and it opens in Excel, and you can save it as an Excel file from there, and you will get all the information you need for your mailing list in that one spot. All right, so I'm going to close that out, and I think that we have covered most of, if not all of the features that we have here. Of course, we can clear our auto filter here. So now we're back to 53,549 records. If we were wanting to see, let's see the age balances. I have in aged balance number 5. I have some balances here. So I want to see a count of, or I want to see the minimum, and it's going to show me the minimum. And when I see that the smallest number, I was a bit confused by this before, but it's actually showing a negative number here. So if we were to sort by this, we can see that the lowest number here comes up to the top, and then that minimum is showing us the lowest number. If we want to clear that out, we would click none. Maximum, we can see that. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see that that's our maximum number that we have here, the highest. If we get rid of that, we can get an average. And I haven't played with a lot of this, but on average, everybody has at least $18.43 in the age balances. Aged 5, which I think translates over to greater than a number of days. And I'm going to go ahead and open the customer screen here so that we can look at opening a .prnx report. All right, so from the customer screen, if we were to look at our balances and then go to aged, These column headings here translate over to what we're seeing in the customer overview under these aged options. So age 0 is going to be your aged group unbilled, and then less than 30 days, less than 30 to 59, 60 to 89, so on. And then I think your last column there is going to be 120 days plus. This I think changes with your aging dates and periods. You can set that up in the system, but that is a topic for another day. So for a customer here, if we're on the customer screen and just the details tab, and if we hit the print button, it brings up this reporting style here. And if you're in this report on the, and I just do this from any customer screen, it doesn't matter which one you're on. If you go to open, then you can scroll through, and I guess I didn't save the .prnx, but you can scroll through here and find any .prnx files that we have, highlight them and open them, and it will open in this report if you choose to save it in that format. Of course, you can save it in whichever format you would like and open it with whichever viewer you would like after that. All right, so that covers the functionality of the screen. We don't really have time to go through a lot of the details of actually creating your own reports, but we will take a look at that. So when you come into customer overview, just get rid of the customer screen here. When you're in the customer overview screen, if you go to setup and you're in the setup screen, this is how you create a report, or this is how to view what's actually included on a report. Now, you're not able to edit or save the system reports that we have because these are standardized in the system and everybody has the same report. If you would like to create your own report, you can click the green plus for add. And when you do that, it clears everything out, and now you have a new style 16. We can give this report a name. And it's enabled so that we can see it and use it. If we want to include service locations here, we can include those, and then mailing addresses here. The only difference I think between these two is for the amount of time it takes to pull the information in for these when you're pulling up the system or the reports. So if you have those unselected, it pulls up slightly faster. If they're selected, then you're going to have a little bit more time to pull up all the customers in the system. You can give it this description here, and then here you have all of your fields that can be included on the report. As I scroll through, you'll see a ton of different fields here. Any of these fields here are like the small char and all of that. These are the on the customer screen, the customer defined fields that can be added in, and then down at the bottom you have your mailing address for your bill to address and all of that. And as you scroll up here, there is one field in here that we looked at earlier, and it is the let's find it here if I can, the overdue state field. So the overdue state tells you whether the customer is past due or not on their billing, and how much they are. So if you have this field selected to be in your report, then you can come to this common here, and this deals with your overdue state setup. So if they're equal to or less than -30, then they're in a state of paid. If their balance is between -29 and -6, then it's going to say balance. If their balance is between -5 and 0, then they're going to be in a warning. And this is all dealing with aging dates, or with not so much aging dates, but how close the balance is or the charge is to the due date. So this is all in relation to the due date. So if they're from 1 day past due to 30 days, then this is going to show past due. If they're 31 days or greater, then they're going to be seriously past due. So This setup takes a little bit of working with to get it exactly right in the way that you want it for your customers or for your reports. All of this can be changed. I can make this 3 days. I can make this 67. This just has to be greater than that. So in there, and then that would leave a gap of like 3 days that nothing would get reported, or it might give you an error. But you can adjust this and change it as you go. If we go back to our style here, I guess it requires something in here. There we go. If you right-click on this, you have a submenu again. You can unselect all. You can select all. Or you can go through and click on your options that you want to keep in the report one by one. You can have it sort by this automatically by clicking in this column. These fields down here, I haven't had much work with on this, but you can choose a field and have the test is going to be equal to or not equal to, and then whatever value is going to be equal to and not equal to, and then it will still show all of the other information. However, if it's equal to, let's use a different field here, let's say, and I know we're running a little bit past time here, so I'm going to try to finish this up. I want to get status in here.
Don't worry, Chris. You can keep going.
Okay, I'll try to finish up here really quickly.
No problem. It's good information.
All right. So status has got to be in here somewhere. There it is. So if we use this field as status, and we want to say anything that has a status that is equal to our options, which are here, we can load a sample from the database, which we should have a status of A or I. All right, so we want all of the active customers to have the row highlighted in a different color other than white. So a little bit more bold. Let's go with something else. Coral. That's bright. And then we want the text to be a different color, which if we do that, we want to have a lighter color. Let's go with that one. And then that's the example of it, of what that would look like when that text shows up. So let's just choose a few columns here. We want status. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to get a whole lot in here because we're not going to really use this. Once it's created, though, you can't delete it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Well, I guess you could. I don't know how well these things work, though. So we'll have to give that a try. I've got everything I need in here. I'm going to go ahead and save the changes. They have been saved, and then to be able to use it, the report, you have to get completely out of customer overview and go back in here. And as that comes up, we can now choose that report from our drop-down menu. And we should see, as soon as it pulls all the information in here. All right, and we see the columns that I chose for the report, and we can see all of the active customers that are highlighted in this color with their text as the color that we have it. That will show up every single time. You can't clear that from here. You would have to go back into your setup to clear that out. So again, all of your options are in that menu. Now, I really think it'll take a little bit of time for y'all to get used to the setup here. And again, the common here is even more involved. But this would help you find customers that are past due, so that you can, if you need to create a mailing list for them, you can only have the ones that are specifically past due according to what you're expecting, and then send them, warning letters or whatever you need to on that. So you can see that this is an extremely powerful tool for not only making reports and creating reports, but for pretty much anything else. I mean, one of the main features that I did want to mention before finishing out, of course, we have all of these options at the top that we did not go through. Now, one thing that I did find is that we have some batch options here. and then we have some other options. So if it's not going to allow you to select more than one, it looks like. But I did find that I had an issue with trying to select, let's say if we selected only active customers here. And I have all my customers selected that are active, but I don't actually have a customer account highlighted. So I have my auto filter row selected, but nothing here is highlighted for an individual customer. Then I cannot use one of these single customer actions. So these processes here are all single customer processes. I can't make a payment to all of these customers at one time. Now, if I have this row selected, I can do a batch adjustment. So I'm attempting to load over 1,000 customers into batch adjustment screen. But you can see that this option will allow you to throw every customer that you have pulled up and sorted on this list into the batch adjustment screen so that you can make a batch adjustment to only those customers. But you can send out batch emails in the same way. But the only thing you don't want to do is have the program crash by not selecting a customer. So if you're going to make a payment, it has to be to an individual customer. If you're going to make an adjustment here, it has to be on an individual customer. If you want to do batch, then you can click this button over here for all of them. But your program will crash if you do a single operation while you have this auto filter row selected. So save your styles. Once you create a style, and if you need to get rid of some things here, like I'm going to hide this row, or hide the auto filter, and then I'm going to hide this column, and then I can save that layout to my report, and it will the next time I open this report, it's going to have this layout with that column hidden. Now, if I want to bring that column back up, I can do that anytime because it's still here. I think that is about all. And if you have any questions or anything like that, we can take a look at some of those and try to answer some questions.
Yeah, we do. So just to reiterate, can we make changes to individual accounts, like the customer name change or active or inactive, from the BI screen?
Okay, so you cannot directly make a change on the screen to any of the fields. That's just for reporting purposes. However, if you do need to go to a customer and make a change, you can come here to the Go To button here and use that, and it will bring up that customer in customer maintenance. So you can use that to make the changes there, or if you use action queue processes to alter or change customers, you can do that from the customer overview here as well. So you can't directly make changes here and save them to the customer. You have to go to the customer screen to do that.
Excellent, thank you. And then just to, again, make sure on this other question, when you are in the customer location mode under service location column, is there a query key to look up an address by street without the street number?
Okay, so if we go to that system there, system settings, let's take a look at that and see. You may get this every so often. It's just updating the grid. It should, it's something that we're going to have to look into. All right, so we have the service location here, and I think that if I understand what we're asking for, if we go to the show auto filter row, we want to look up only the street. I would think that if you use the % and then type a street name in, that is going to get anything with an H in it, so that may not work. But let's say west. So I think that for the most part it will work that way.
We do have the suggestion of using an asterisk. Can you use an asterisk and then?
I don't know if the asterisk does the same. Because they're both wildcard characters, so
Yeah,
it's going to do...
the percent sign might work better.
Yeah, the percent sign is just a wildcard for SQL. So that's why we use that. But I am seeing that this looks like it is doing much better. So
Excellent. Asterisk it is.
Yeah. So maybe the asterisk will work. I still see a few that are like that. So Decker Parkway West. So anything is still a wild card for anything that's before it or anything that's after it. If you put it behind there, if you want to get very specific with it, then you can come here to your filter editor. Service location begins with, is equal to, is greater than, contains a value. So if it contains West, then that will pull it up as well. You have several different options for that. I believe, just to be thorough here, if we go into our setup, you have your billing address and you have your service location address. So your service location, you have, I guess it's a street number, city, state, and zip. I was hoping that it was separated apart. It's not. Your names are separate. You have several different options for your name. So you can have the last name field separate from your first name field. You can have your first name first and then your last name, but all in the same field. You can have your last name first, all in the same field. So you have several different options for those. When you get down to your bill to address, I don't have that one selected here. Let's see. You get down to your billing address here. That's not included on that one either. We did include it on this one. There we go. You have your mailing line 1, 2, 3, and all of that. So it still doesn't split it apart by building number and street. But those are the options.
Perfect. All right, does anyone else have any questions? You can go ahead and submit them. We'll wait maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but if you don't have any questions and you're done, feel free to close out whenever you're ready. Otherwise, Chris and I will hang out for a little bit and see if anyone has any additional questions. And Chris, thank you so much. You did a great job. I learned a lot, so, and that says something.
All right. It's one of my favorite tools.
Also, this is going to be one of the classes we will be holding at Harris Customer Training Conference in Colorado in October. So we will be working on this with Chris and making it a little bit more in depth. And so if you guys have additional questions you might want to have answered, we can as well look at that and make sure that it's included whenever we do our training.
Okay, will the system crash if you select an individual account and click on a batch option? Let's find out. I'm not really certain if it will or not. So let's limit this though, because I'd like to not pull in 1,000 accounts. People that start with, their name starts with J. And let's see how many we have. So 55 people, there we go. And I'm just gonna select one of those and hit batch adjustment. And it did not crash. So, but as you can see, it pulls all of those accounts in that we selected. And if you want to harass people that have a J in their name, you can send them a adjustment specifically only to them.
Good question. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. If you guys think of any, just feel free to email me, qdosantos@harriscomputer.com. My email is linked in all of the invites for the webinar as well. So thank you guys. Thank you, Chris. And I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.